All right, guys. Gonna start just jumping in. So, my name is Michael Lewis, and I want to do a quick talk today about a playbook for games on Twitch. And the genesis of this talk is it just been getting asked by a lot of folks I know who work in and around games, who know a bit about Twitch. What can I really do to take advantage of Twitch? I know some things about the platform. I know it's pretty large, but what kinds of things can we do to really have Twitch help us grow our games and communities? So there's probably one game on a lot of folks' minds right now, Apex Legends. And I just played a couple rounds of this yesterday and didn't kill anybody. I don't quite get the allure. After 2.5 hours, I think I died like probably 25 times and didn't kill anybody. But it's a very popular game, and we've seen it go from not being a game at all to having 50 million players in about a month. And one of the things we heard about this was Apex Legends has proven that you can actually market a AAA game essentially on Twitch alone, and we're not going to come back from that revelation. And I think this is a really new thing in games. I spent about 10 years working at Electronic Arts, and as folks who've worked in AAA game development and publishing know, you're used to a stage-gated process with hundreds of little announcements and hundreds of little beats along the way. And I think that Apex Legends is a new way to essentially go to market with games. So we're going to be talking a bit about some of the tactics that they use to go to market. We're going to be talking about some of the tactics that other developers and other games have been using, and trying to keep something in the talk for everybody. So a mix of things about AAA games and indie and smaller titles. All around that central theme of how can you integrate with Twitch, and how can you use Twitch to help grow your game. So just a couple stats about Twitch for folks who might not be familiar with it. Twitch averages about 15 million viewers a day, and about 3 million streamers take to Twitch every month. The site's continuing to experience some staggering growth, getting a lot larger year on year. And we've seen about 505 billion minutes watched in 2018, which is almost an hour for every man, woman, and child on Earth. So we're pretty proud with the growth we've seen, and continue to see really strong degrees of engagement on Twitch. And the vast majority of time that folks spend watching on Twitch is around gaming content. So Twitch is really a home for thousands of games and thousands of gamers who are interested in watching new and engaging content. And I hit the wrong button. So I just wanted to lead in with a bit about how we at Twitch view the relationships between broadcasters and viewers in games. And the kind of mantra that we use a lot internally is that Twitch and games have a shared community. Game publishers, game developers, and Twitch, we all have the same audience of gamers. This isn't really an us versus them, and this is a shared community between both of us. So at Twitch, everything starts with the creator. Creators, aka streamers or broadcasters, are folks who take to Twitch every day to create new content and to engage with their audiences. And we've built out a new product called Extensions, which is all about creating new and novel ways for gamers and viewers and the underlying games to engage. And we've seen that this actually drives a lot stronger viewer retention and is a way to get viewers actively engaged with streams. There's another tech called Twitch Prime and Drops, which are sort of two versions of the same thing, which give you free content in game. And we've seen this as a way that many, many franchises, small games, large games, are using to convert active viewers on Twitch into players. And then having more players drives more creators. Organic game growth we see driving more players into the funnel, into the ecosystem. And there's a cheat code as well, which is a product called Bounty Board. So Bounty Board is just a way to drive new creators. And this is kind of our flywheel. This is the way that we look at the world in a nutshell. And I'll just be alluding to this throughout the presentation. So just a couple stats on Twitch. I think it's easy sometimes to lose sight of the scale of Twitch and the scale of some of the games. So Fortnite, I think, has grown a bit since the stat, but they have over 200 million players, and they have about 245 million viewers on Twitch over the course of the last year. PUBG, 60 million players on the PC, 107 million viewers on Twitch. So it's a large and extremely engaged community. FIFA, from EA, where I used to work, 28 million viewers on Twitch and around 24, 25 million players. And again, Apex Legends, 25 million players in their first week and about 20 million viewers on Twitch in its first week. And I want to talk a little bit about Dead Cells. The nice thing with Dead Cells and some of the other games that are exclusively on Steam is that we have a much richer set of stats about how these games perform. And what we saw with Dead Cells, about 4.6 million viewers on Twitch in 2018, 1.2 million active players. And this was just a quick look at their graph in terms of concurrency. So you can see hit around 11,000 concurrents. And normalized to Twitch scale, this is how they did in terms of active viewers. So, one of the things we see is there are a lot of people watching on Twitch. They watch for a long time, and they're really engaged. Way above the degree of engagement with the underlying game. So, 500,000 people when they debuted their streamer interactivity feature set watching the game actively on Twitch. And we see like a really strong correlation between this new feature and the degree of streamer engagement and essentially the residual marketing around that and their game's concurrent user chart. So a strong relationship as they're debuting new features and tightening up their integration with Twitch. They're seeing a corresponding lift in play of their game. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how Dead Cells did that and talk about a couple other games and some of the tactics you can use in developing a game. And I'm going to talk about this in 3 phases. So the first phase here, we're going to look at tactics for development. So this is when you're actively developing a game. Recommendation from the Twitch side is to try to treat Twitch like you would other console integrations and get the features integrated prior to alpha. If it goes beyond alpha, that's okay, but we recommend thinking about the integration with Twitch in a similar context. The next milestone we'll talk a bit about is the road to launch and launch, and I'm defining this as essentially, this is more of a kind of a go-to-market set of milestones. So this is everything after you finish the core development of your game and you're getting into announcing your game, you're getting into beta, your game is is live, and the month or so after the game's live. And the last thing we'll talk a bit about is the third phase of having a live service game. So this is when your game is active and you're debuting a lot of new features and programs. You're thinking a lot about retention. You're starting to think about how you can double down on in-game monetization. And we'll talk about some of the programs that Twitch has to help you as a live service game as well. So on the development side, there's 3 programs we're going to go deep into today, and these are all things that are actually in market. So the first one we're going to talk about is rich extensions, and we'll talk about that again initially through the Dead Cells context. Just to show of hands, how many folks in the audience are familiar with Dead Cells or have ever heard of it or played it at all? Okay, so pretty healthy. So Dead Cells did an integration called Streamer Mode, where they essentially built out a feature set for folks streaming the game and created a couple of new ways to have streamers and the game actually interact. And I'm going to show you just a quick video on what that looks like to give some context.
Brutality increased. Why am I not surprised? Try to open the chest. Okay, okay, haha, yeah. Well, oh, good job, guys. Are you doing this? Yeah, you are. Holy shit. Yay. Wow.
So that's an integration that they did into their game, and as they did that, they were parsing Twitch chat, and we'll look at a couple of the things kind of behind the scenes on that. So one of the things that you saw there, the little white chicken guy was actually a Twitch viewer, and they have a little thing called Captain Chicken, and Captain Chicken allows you to kind of type back and forth. And they also have the ability as Captain Chicken to heal the streamer. And we've seen those kinds of integrations where folks can actually buff the streamer, can actually create entirely new ways to play. So this is sort of the backdrop today for most games. You have Twitch viewers off to the left. There's a wall between viewers and streamers. Streamers playing the game. As they're playing, it's talking to the game's backend. So what we've done with extensions is we've created new ways for all these different folks to engage. So extensions, can talk to a game's backend. They can take input directly from viewers. They can talk directly to streamers and to Twitch, and they have essentially like a live configuration view so that streamers can see what's going on in real time as they're using extensions. And just a couple of examples of this live right now. Destiny and Destiny 2 both created it's kind of rich armory overlay, so you can see. This is something that's really helpful for loot shooters like these two titles, where you can see exactly what the streamer has equipped. You can hover over things as a viewer and see lots of information about the current state of the game. And we think that these kinds of integrations are great for these types of titles, and this is really the first pass at that. We also partnered with Blizzard this year to do what we called the War Chest for StarCraft 2. And this is something that was sold through Battle.net, their digital distribution platform. And it gave folks who were watching on Twitch experience every, I think, 15 minutes they were watching. And that experience they used to actually unlock a new in-game unit. So here's some of the Terran units that you got for watching through Twitch. And streamers got a portion of the sales of every war chest that was sold. So it's a great way to entice streamers to actually stream the game and to reward viewers for watching something. And we in Blizzard were really happy with the results of the first kind of war chest experiment that we did there. We also saw Darwin Project, which is a small team up in Montreal that put together a kind of a battle royale game that had a really rich Twitch integration. So again, you could actually heal the streamer as they're playing. You could determine which areas you wanted to close off. All of this through an extension. So we think that this is a really helpful technology in trying to connect viewers and gamers and the underlying game in unique and interesting ways. And we're sort of just scratching the surface on what AAA and world-class integrations look like for many genres of titles, but something that we're really excited about and starting to see a lot of promise in. We also saw on the kind of esports and professional gaming side, we partnered with Muxy, who's one of our vendors that we work with a lot, and created an extension for a major tournament for PUBG. So this had, I think, around 350 or 500,000 concurrent viewers. And we saw that, I want to say about 26% of folks who watched actually engaged and voted. And if you voted and you correctly predicted who's going to win this 20-team Battle Royale tournament, then you got in-game content and in-game skins. And what we saw and what we continue to see is when you can move folks on Twitch from passively watching into getting active, and even if that's voting or any kind of light touch integration with the streamer, that drives really strong retention. And then this thing we'll keep coming back to throughout the discussion here is whenever you can give folks free in-game content as a way to drive them into your game, we see really strong that is a really strong way to convert viewers into active players. So going to look at another extension real quick. So this is Counter-Strike Go competitive mode. This is something that we did in partnership with the company Genvid and another extension developer, Stats Helix, to make a really rich and competitive esports mode. So we'll look at that real quick. So I think this is one of the things that we're starting to see that's really exciting is that extensions allow you to really customize the experience from a viewer's perspective. So you can move a lot of things that are usually controlled by the gamer into things that are controlled by the viewer. So to give you an example, we watched a lot of League of Legends, and you see streamers all the time will press tab, and they'll press it for a tenth of a second to pull up a scoreboard with the current game state, and that's long enough for them to get the information that they need, but not really long enough for viewers or for somebody who just drops in. So this ability to use extensions and having an underlying API for your game to differentiate the experience that viewers see from the experience that streamers or the player sees is, we think, kind of the first thing that's awesome to actually unlock with extensions. So the second thing I'll talk a little bit about here for games that are in development is Twitch Prime. And the first thing on Twitch Prime is that Twitch Prime is a sub-feature of Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, and how many folks are Amazon Prime members here? So everybody. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, then you're also a Twitch Prime member. And what this program allows you to do is it essentially gives you free in-game content every couple weeks, every month. And it also gives a subscription token that you can use on a streamer of your choice every month. So we see really high degrees of engagement with this, and we've partnered with a lot of AAA and indie developers to offer content through the program. We've done multiple Twitch Prime packs with Fortnite. We've recently done some with Apex Legends. We've done some with Madden and FIFA, and we see that this is a really strong way to drive new users into your game repeatedly. Last thing I want to talk a bit about is mods. So Twitch also has a desktop application that can distribute mods to users who are using many digital distribution services. And we saw some really strong degrees of engagement with mods for Stardew Valley. We've also seen some great use cases around World of Warcraft and around Minecraft. So one of the mods that I thought was really interesting for Stardew Valley was You Got Mail, and it allows you to actually use bits on Twitch to send in-game content to the streamer as they're playing. And it also has the ability to discover what mods the streamer is actually using through an extension. So we think that mods like this and essentially any way that you can create interactions between viewers and streamers and the underlying game are really, really positively received by all parties. I'll just give one note of caution on that, though, is that interactions that reward folks who are streaming, we see as really positive. Things that kind of debuff or that allow viewers to harass the streamer generally don't do well. The kind of like trolling sorts of interactions. Those things are usually fun like once or twice, but they don't really have the same kind of like stick-to-itiveness or reusability that we see from things that are more supportive in nature. Streaming's really freaking hard, so I think that has a lot to do with it. So jumping into the next section, I want to talk a little bit about the road to launch and actually launching a game. And what we hear from developers and publishers is that the main things that they're focused on in these stages are driving brand awareness and driving acquisition. And you can think about these stages like a big funnel. So you are really focused initially on trying to raise awareness of what essentially what your game is, what the key value proposition points of your game are, and then you try to encourage folks to go down that funnel to think about actively buying your game and ultimately playing it and playing it repeatedly. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about in this section is the feature set around announcing new games on Twitch. We'll talk a bit about things that you can do for games in beta, and then we'll talk about launch and show a couple of examples from Apex Legends, which just launched, and lastly talk a little bit about dev updates and ways to sustain the community when you have multiple games in development. So one of the first examples that really caught my eye recently was the team at Bethesda created a new extension to announce a new expansion pack for Elder Scrolls Online. And what this did was It essentially ran when they were getting ready to show a new trailer. And every little point of light there is users clicking and engagement. And what they saw was as you kind of mash and click, then it fills this circle, and then at the end of the circle, they announce their new trailer, and they use this to kind of drive hype and brand awareness. And we've seen these kinds of light touch interactions as ways to drive a lot of novelty ahead of an announce. We also saw something really interesting with the new CD Projekt Red title as well, where they spammed a bunch of gibberish on screen, and then that gets Kotaku, that gets all of the news sites and media really excited that something's going to be announced, and they showed their 35, 40-minute uncut trailer from that was behind the scenes at E3. So these kinds of interactions to tease something that you're going to announce and then announcing it, we've seen are ways to drive hundreds of thousands of users to your official channels in advance of an announce. And we also really strongly recommend co-streaming, which is allowing other users on Twitch, other streamers on Twitch to actually stream new announcements and new things wherever possible. We partnered with Ubisoft a lot, and I think Will from Ubisoft's, formerly of Ubisoft, is back there in the room somewhere. And one of the things that we did with Ubi was we partnered around their beta for Honor, and we saw that this was a great way to actually drive users into their beta. Streamers are essentially able to give away beta keys to their own viewers, and these kinds of interactions, when you can put streamers in the seat of being able to reward their community and their audience, are really positively received by everybody. And we have a suite of products that helps you drive engagement around beta. Just to look at a couple of the things that the Apex Legends did. So Apex Legends, caught us and I think a lot of other folks in the industry by surprise. Respawn, essentially announced the game by pulling in all of the top streamers on Twitch and having them, essentially on site about a day before the game was announced and launched, and then immediately they launched it. And we followed up from their launch quite quickly with our Twitch Rivals tournament for Apex. And Rivals is a kind of a new esports format that we're piloting out at Twitch. It's under a year old at this point, and instead of the kind of formal esports event, it allows streamers to play against other streamers and to do so in a more casual setting. So they're at home, they're streaming from their usual setups, and they're competing in semi-casual play. And we saw that this is a really strong way to drive millions and millions of new viewers to get exposed to a new game. They also followed up really quickly after launch with a Prime campaign. So they used this to drive awareness of the game and to drive a lot of users back into game. So Prime users are proven spenders, and it's a great way to to actually drive users again into your title. We've also seen a new program called Bounty Board start to really catch on. So this is something that we launched I think around 9 months or a year ago. And my colleague Mike Minton's going to give a deep overview of that in just the next session. And what we saw from Bounty Board is that this is a great way to engage the longer tail of streamers. So you saw with Apex, they engaged the tip, and then they followed up quite quickly with the Bounty Board campaign to really pull a lot of smaller and mid-sized streamers into streaming the game. Smaller and mid-sized streamers are really important on Twitch because we see very, very high degrees of engagement. It's actually the highest degrees of engagement between viewers and their audience in this cohort. So it's a great way to actually build the kind of core base of your game out and to encourage new folks to stream your title. And lastly, want to talk a little bit about dev updates. So this is something you can do whether you're a small studio or a big studio. Your community on Twitch really wants to hear from you, and they want to hear a lot of updates all the time about new things that you're working on, about the kind of behind the scenes look, about patches around balancing or new unit updates. And this is a example of Paradox, who has a weekly dev update cadence where they're showing, in this case, this looks like some new footage from Stellaris and some of the tweaks that they've made to the game. And this is also something that we've partnered a lot with Maxis to do. So Maxis is another studio that takes advantage of this kind of informal way to update the community about new patches and new expansion packs, new stuff packs, new changes to the game. So next section, I want to talk a bit about building a live service. So this is predominantly geared toward games that have already launched that are now focusing on growing and how to drive better engagement with the community. So we'll talk here a bit about drops, a bit about Prime, and insights. So drops is one of our most broadly adopted features, and we've done drops campaigns at this point with, I think, pretty much every AAA publisher and many AAA titles. This is just an example from Elder Scrolls Online where they gave a custom pet away. There's a ton of different ways to do drops. One of the strongest engagements that we've seen is actually around RuneScape, which is a title that's, I think, bordering on 20 years old at this point. And they actually did a drop for a RuneScape that gave you a pet that would actually level up the more that you watched on Twitch. So these kinds of novel ways to give gamers something in your game and to reward them or to buff that thing as they actually watch on Twitch, we've seen are really powerful ways to drive users into your game, and they work repeatedly. So you can continue giving content through the program, and folks will continue watching your game on Twitch, and this is a great way to circulate users back into your game. Titles like FIFA or Madden that have really strong live service game modes like Ultimate Team use drops all the time to drive users back into their game and to drive actual viewership on Twitch. And the way that drops works is it encourages you to link your account. So you link your Twitch account, in this case for Elder Scrolls Online, with your Bethesda or your Elder Scrolls Online account. And then that shares data about the viewers' kind of viewing habits for that game on Twitch. And then publishers can use that to grant in-game content to viewers as they're watching. We're working on a slew of updates for drops this year. One of the things we're focused a lot on as a team is trying to build richer criteria for awarding rather than just watching Twitch. So things like, did you watch somebody get a pentakill in League of Legends, or did you watch somebody win a battle royale game after getting 10 kills? So working on building out that kind of feature set to allow developers to do more interesting and novel things on top of drops. Just to do a quick case study. So Warframe, a pretty large free-to-play game, did a campaign around drops, reached about 1 million players. About 41% of users who claimed drop through that program had never actually spent money in game. And 18% of those users who actually claimed it went on to spend, and they had an $8 ARPPU, average revenue per paying user. So this is a way to drive massive amounts of users into game and convert many of those users into new spenders. I think one of the other things that was really interesting was that it also really reactivated a number of lapsed players for their game. So 50% of the users who had claimed loot hadn't played in the last 60 days, and they kind of did a Prime campaign at the same time. And the Prime campaign actually lifted spend by 52% for active players and 246% by among folks who weren't active within the last week. So this is a great way to actually drive re-engagement with your game. One of the things we see on Twitch is that we probably have more of your lapsed users watching actively on Twitch than you do. So it's a great way to re-engage players who might have played your game at one point but aren't actively playing still. Giving somebody something for free in game costs you nothing because if they don't get it, they probably would never use it or redeem it. And this is a great way to draw users back into your game and to encourage subsequent follow-on monetization. We see the same tactic work in free-to-play games and paid games and games with strong microtransaction and in-game economy modes. And last thing to talk about is Insights. So Insights is another product that we have live on the Twitch side right now. It takes about, I want to say about 5 minutes to get your game actually registered. And once you sign up and register your company and your game, then you can start to get insights about numbers of players who are watching your game on Twitch, about some of the things that they're doing. And we really strongly encourage you to go check out the insights and to start learning more about how your game is being watched on Twitch. And I'll just do a quick recap. So closing thoughts, in active development, we really strongly, if I could recommend one thing, it's really think about how you could leverage extensions to drive stronger interactions between viewers, between streamers, and between your game on Twitch. I think we're in about year one and a half of extensions, and we're just starting to see some really novel and interesting ways that developers are pushing the bounds about what's possible. And rich extensions are really a way for you to try and to pioneer new modes and new forms of engagement between viewer, streamer, and game. Identity and Prime, we really encourage you to think about linking identity early and to do the Twitch identity and OAuth integration, because this is kind of the primitive on top of which all the other integrations with Twitch are built. I would definitely strongly encourage you to do this as soon as possible and to think about the account links between your game or the account links between your publisher account and Twitch as a KPI that you're thinking a lot about when you're actively developing your game, because it will really help you down the road as you have a strong and engaged audience on Twitch to be able to use programs like Prime or drops to drive more users back into your game. And then lastly, for development features, if you are planning on having modability for your game, we recommend thinking about the Twitch experience for mods. Most of the, or I should say like a large handful of the most successful games on Twitch and the most successful games in the world started out as mods. So I definitely recommend continuing to think about mods and mod discovery for titles that are in active development. The road to launch, we talked a bit about how you could use Twitch to effectively announce your game. And here again, we'd really recommend using new tactics like extensions to drive buzz and awareness for games that are in active development that are not yet announced. And we've seen this drive over 1 million concurrent viewers onto your game during Twitch, during the actual announcement of your game on Twitch. And we will have probably about 10 to 15 million viewers watching our E3 coverage this year. So if you're work at a publisher or work at a game company that's preparing for E3, we'd love to talk with you and work with you on your E3 plans. There's some new programs that we're working on there for, hey, you want to announce a slate of games and make it really easy for customers to pre-order or get the games on Amazon. Great opportunity to drive awareness and sales for your game when it's in really early development. Lastly, we talked, or nextly, I should say, we talked a bit about betas. So getting users into your beta is a strong way to drive them to buy your underlying game. We recommend working with programs like Bounty Board to try to drive the broadest possible adoption of your game during your beta period, because you'll be able to convert more of those users who try your beta into follow-on purchasers. And Twitch influencers are a great way to reach new audiences for games that are in beta. We talked through a couple of different launch tactics and launch programs. I think Apex Legends is pretty strong evidence that you can drive millions or tens of millions of new viewers into the top of your funnel through Twitch. And lastly, on this part, dev updates are a great way to just keep your community engaged with new content year round. On the drop side, for live service, there's no stronger way to engage your audience than to give them free stuff in your game. And Twitch streamers love to have things to give away, and Drops is really a program for doing that as is Twitch Prime. And if you have one thing that you immediately go out and do after this talk today, just go register your company, register your game on Twitch Insights, and you should be able to start really quickly learning about your game. So we have a bit of time now for Q&A, and there are mics on either side if you have any questions. Yep.
So for the insights blob at the very end, is
Yep.
there a way to get that very precious tool within phase 2, within the beta? Are they interchangeable?
Yes. So you can get insights for your game as soon as the game's actually live and in the Twitch database. So Twitch pulls from Giant Bomb, and usually as soon as your game's in beta, there will be a listing for it there. And then what Insights allows you to do is essentially just register as a developer of the game as soon as it's live. And then you can start to see the actual behavior of folks on the Twitch side around your game. Good question.
Hi. Just real quick, I wanted to see if you guys had any insider data on sort of what smaller developers can do to get the most bang for their buck. Those of us that can't really pay Ninja $1 million to stream our game.
Yep.
Yeah, if in your opinion, or if you guys have data on that.
Yeah, so there are a couple things as a indie dev you can do to stand out on Twitch. One of the things, so we have, Bounty Board is a way to if you have just a small, marketing budget and you want to recruit some streamers to stream your game, is one of the paid avenues to do it. There's also, I think the core thing on Twitch that I think a lot of folks could benefit from is these kinds of novel interactions, like we saw with Dead Cells is a small made by Motion Twin, which is a small studio. I think they have about 5 to 10-ish people on staff at the time. And creating that new way for streamers and viewers to engage was what really enabled them to cut through the 20-ish titles that are launching on Steam every day. So I'd say if you have kind of enough ammo for one bullet, I would think about, is there some new way for me to actually drive a new form of engagement between streamers and viewers? And can I reach out to the press? Can I reach out to to smaller streamers to start that? And what we really see a lot at Twitch is that it's the streamers with 100 to 200 concurrent viewers who are the most eager to try new things, who have the strongest bonds between their community. As you can get those girls and guys into your programs early on, that's the best way to start to build a kind of core and loyal, engaged group of streamers. And the folks on the top will switch between games all the time, but it's really that kind of middle. We call them tier 2 and tier 3 streamers on Twitch. Those are the folks who really drive the strongest degrees of engagement with your title. So I'd recommend whatever you can do to pioneer and try novel ways to engage, and then focus on trying to drive those bonds with folks in that tier. Yep.
I noticed that a lot of Twitch viewers watch multiplayer games.
Yep.
And I was gonna ask, how can viewer engagement happen in narrative choice-based games like, Telltale or similar stuff, especially for indie games? Because we're developing an indie story game and thinking about how we can use, extensions to create player engagement within the story.
Super excited to hear it, and it's a great question that we get a lot of the time. So I would just think about ways that viewers. So I think that there's a class of really light touch interactions that we've seen are very strong on Twitch, like voting. So the example we saw around Dead Cells there, Dead Cells is a single player, roguelike. It's not a multiplayer game. So if you can allow viewers to actually vote on what happens, or to give feedback to streamers on what happens, that can be a really powerful form of engagement. I'd also encourage you to check out, there's another extension called Smart Click Maps, which essentially just aggregates, as users are clicking, it sort of forms these concentric circles. So if you could think of kind of light touch interactions like that, where all of the kind of viewer input can get aggregated into something and then can be used to show something on screen. Those types of interactions can be really powerful, and that could be, something used for something really grand, or we've seen it, streamers like, NL Crip on the Hearthstone side use that for, hey, recommend what I should play with in my deck next time, or hey, chat, give me feedback about what items I should put in my inventory. There's a lot of those kinds of lighter touch interactions that you can use extensions to really drive, and that engagement between viewers and streamers is really the most important thing that we see on Twitch. So I just brainstorm about those kinds of interactions, and I'd love to work with you on how to refine that as well.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Do you think leaving major choices to viewers is something that has positive effects in player engagement? When the streamer decides, leaving the big game choices to the viewers.
So Skara, I talked to Skara last week, and what he said was his community has never given him valuable feedback ever. And he's a little tongue-in-cheek on that. And I think it's less that the streamer has to follow exactly what the viewers said. It's more just about those kind of, it's the streamer playing the game, and for a rich narrative game. So I think ultimately it makes sense for the streamer to have that kind of agency for the most part. But we've also seen folks do some crazy stuff when they're really left up to decide what happens. So Twitch Plays Pokemon was really fun, not because it was very organized, but because there's the factions of anarchy and chaos versus the folks who wanted to to win the game, and that kind of tension became really fun. So streaming's a little different than regularly playing the game, and the streamer is really there to engage and kind of work directly with chat on creating something together. So I think that it makes sense to give the streamer control about whether or not they actually follow what chat recommends, but having chat be able to to have those kinds of interactions, even if they tell streamers to do terrible and horrible things, is pretty fun. And everyone wants to see the streamer randomly kill off a party member or do something like that. It's just it's entertaining.
Thanks for the detailed answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so you mentioned like a sort of kind of achievement system for like what the Twitch user would see happen in the game. How would that be affected by multi-streams? So for example, if I'm watching, let's say, an entire League of Legends team, right? And I'm seeing all their roles and all of them have different things going on at the same time. If it's triggering multiple achievements on each stream, would the Twitch user be, since I'm on one account, would that all be aggregated? Or would there be some kind of filtering that's expected to be done by either the Twitch side of things or the developer side of things to kind of make it a long-term retention sort of thing, so they don't burn through all the achievements really quick or anything like that?
So it's a good question. So I think there's a couple things kind of embedded in there. I'll try to answer. So the first thing is, in terms of those kind of really rich viewer engagement modes, it sounds like how do we ensure that we don't repeatedly award? So if I have like 10 tabs open, I am not accruing something for each of those 10 tabs. So we essentially just take a feed from the streamer and then check to make sure that they don't have multiple connections open on our side, so that we aren't rewarding folks repeatedly for the same thing. And then on the Twitch side, we think about building this out as a set of primitives. So there's essentially a primitive for ingesting game data that we're working through right now. So you can send us feed of here's all the things that the streamer's doing, or here's all the things that are happening in the kind of global game state for an esports context. And then there's, we're envisioning that there's a rules engine that sits on top of that. So that is how you can configure new, you can kind of configure, if I see Skara get a pentakill, or I see a streamer get a pentakill in game, then give them XYZ in game content. Or if I see somebody get 10 kills in game and they end up winning, then give them content. So there's the kind of way to ingest data, and then a rules engine that sits on top of that to determine what to award folks who are watching.
And is that rules engine, is that supposed to be determined by the developer? Or is that something
Yes.
that's handled on okay.
Yeah, so this is a a program that we're working through actively right now. Right now, there's essentially only one criteria, which is minutes watched, and we're working on adding more things to that. But the idea there is that you as a developer can set new criteria, can set campaigns. You can pick whether you want something to be generally available to all streamers on Twitch, or you wanna, hey, we wanna just do this on our own dedicated channel to juice our stats. So those are all criteria. So just to give kind of a couple, like a tangible example on this, on the FIFA side, they're running a drops campaign every week where they'll pick one influencer. They'll pick somebody who's in that 100 concurrent viewer to 500 concurrent viewer category, and they'll enable them to award drops to their community. And we're working on kind of enriching that feature set. So rather than just, hey, you've watched an hour of FIFA, maybe you watch somebody get a hat trick, or you watch somebody do something. And then the kind of live service producers on the FIFA side can create new things to give away, or they can adjust things in time.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was going to see, do you guys have anything on the roadmap? Are you guys seeing anyone right now as far as integrating Twitch with location-based experiences like the Void or other VR? That you go, as a user, you go to a location to play that game or do that experience?
It's a really good question. We don't have anything actively on it as far as I'm aware. But we just sort of have started investigating the space.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't have anything actively on it. It's just a fascinating space that's growing really, really quickly.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, nothing actively in development on that right now.
Okay.
Looks like we're onto our. We can have time, I think, for one last question. If folks have questions, happy to break here as well.
Do you have any examples of people using mobile space for Twitch? Because all these seem like desktop games.
That's a really good question. Yeah, we do have a number of really kind of growing mobile games on Twitch. So we've worked a lot with the Super Evil Megacorp guys on making their title there a larger esports spectacle. And we're seeing really strong growth on the Twitch side on mobile. So I want to say around a third of users on Twitch are watching from mobile devices, and we see that starting to skyrocket. And I think honestly, it's a matter of time until we see a larger and larger share of users on mobile watching mobile games and mobile experiences and having these kinds of interactions between the different services there. So we see really strong growth in that area, and I'm sure it's going to continue for the foreseeable future. And we're sort of in that day one around mobile. So I think the fidelity and what mobile games can do is consistently going up and consistently getting a lot better. And we're starting to see the small indie folks like Tencent test new things on mobile and test out new competitive game modes. So really excited to see the development there. Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody, for your time and coming to check it out today.